Hello and welcome to another edition of the NCCR podcast. My name is DeVandis Smith, the host with the most, and I would like to introduce you to two wonderful women. They go by the names of Kim Matson and the other Amanda. Psych sick.
Wow, that was
The
even more
host with
extra
the most.
than usual. Yeah, he sounds so like a velvet throated, and then he goes into the
I know.
It's
Good.
hoopla
It's good. The hoopla.
of the introduction.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
How's it going, guys?
Oh
Good.
man, it's good.
Thanks for that introduction, by the way, DeVandis.
Yeah.
Nobody does it like you do.
And you can't have a bad day after that.
It is
Clearly
always
should
my
not.
pleasure to introduce you two ladies. You know that. So, ladies, let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We had the Energizer Bunny up
Yeah.
this past Sunday,
Uh-huh.
and 1,000 miles a minute. He's very hard to film. We always have to
Stay on the carpet.
Yeah. Well. See, I messed up and told him that we have a camera that can remote, track him and Steve.
Yeah.
So
probably
now
not.
I messed up.
That's
up.
on you. Yeah.
But Pastor Ryan brought it.
He did great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
He did great.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you ladies think of the message?
Well, he
Oof.
started out with the question, what if Jesus is watching? Well, I don't know if he started out with that, but it was
Yeah.
kind of what was in my head that he said.
I think so.
I guess I could go back and look at it.
No,
and really,
you're right.
If I'm really quote him properly. But anyway, what if Jesus is watching or was watching or, when you did
Yeah.
something or when you're doing a thing? Well, of course he is. He's,
I know, but isn't your first reaction duh? And then you think to all the times you're like, yeah.
yeah, I forgot about it that time.
Yeah.
Because he is watching and we should all act like we know that.
Right.
I mean,
Or-
it's not a mystery.
Right.
Or you like, hopefully he was closing his eyes or
Yeah.
turned his head.
Hopefully he was
on
watching
this particular incident.
DeVandis or Amanda at that point, not
yeah.
me.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, but he came out as 2 Peter 3:11 through 13 and numerous other verses,
Yeah, there
which
was,
feel free to go look them all up because
6 or 7 of them.
we're not going to be talking about all of those
Yeah.
today.
But a little shout out to him for that.
Yeah.
We love that.
Yeah. We know we're going to get that with Ryan, and I actually do appreciate that because he does do his homework on applicable Bible verses for what he's talking about. And I kind of wanted to review where we've kind of been
Yeah.
in kind of a to-do list, if you will. And, we've talked about false prophets, the return of Christ, our readiness, God's timing, other things too. Feel free to jump in. And then, to-do list continues to be the same always.
Always.
And it's, we're to share the gospel, love others, live righteously and holy, and abide. And again, be ready because as we've been discussing, we don't know when Christ is coming back. And I think it'll be obvious when it happens.
Isn't it interesting that it's the things that we're supposed to be doing are all the same irregardless?
Yeah.
And it's kind of it's like living in the basics. You should always just be living in the basics and never get away from them and have to go back because you're always just living there.
Well, we have routines for everything else in our
Right.
life, right?
Yeah.
We have regimented times that we come and go places, and we have things that we do to keep our house in a particular way, and we have medicines that we take on a regular basis. But I don't know
Yeah.
that we prep daily for the return of Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, if it became a routine thing, that would probably be helpful.
Yeah.
Start your day or end your day, or
Yeah.
some point in every day you should pay as much attention to readiness as you do to
Yeah.
the workaday stuff.
I like how Pastor Steve, not Steve, I'm sorry, but Pastor Ryan said this: make each day count and don't procrastinate in your faith. So that kind of ties into what you were just speaking of, Kim. Live each day as if it was your last day.
Yeah, today's the day.
Yeah. I just feel like Peter is describing to the believers, it's like the need to be in heart, attitude, motive, behavior, action, and duty, like represent Jesus well in the way that we live, pursue holiness and godliness in your daily life. And at the end of the verse on verse 13, it talks about the earth, the new heavens and new earth, right? Everything else is going to melt away in fire. And it's just incredible perspective. Like, where are our priorities? Where are our hope? Where is our focus? Where is our attention going?
Yep.
Are we living in a way that demonstrates that that is what our eternal hope, where we're going to end up? Or are we living for worldly pleasures in life? And
because we are in the business of accumulating things, right? I think that's just how most people live. If you have a thing and you like it, you want more of that thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know too many people in my life that are living in an austere way, that are just, sleeping on a floor mat and getting a day's food.
Right.
Because usually folks have a well-stocked fridge and they're making themselves as comfortable as possible, and myself included. And just to be mindful of that and what that means, and how we, to Ryan's point, give that stuff away. Invite people over. If you got extra food in your fridge, or even if you don't, just have somebody over and help you consume that, and then go get some more for the next day or two. Just a little bit more of living in the moment as opposed to having a grand plan of more.
Yeah, being intentional, being really intentional. I just kept thinking of Psalm 23 throughout his whole sermon, and how it just so ties into this really well. Like, we have all that we need.
Yep.
And yet here on earth, we're like hoarding. We're on hoarders. We're hoarders.
We are hoarders. Whether you're an actual hoarder or not, you're a hoarder.
Yeah.
Because, every time my new thing, and this will tell you what kind of hoarder mentality I do have, is if I get a new pair of shoes, a pair of shoes has to go out. But I have so many shoes. I have fewer shoes than I used to have, so maybe that's an improvement. But it just is, maybe I won't say our nature, but it is in my nature to, I like certain things, and I seem to have an abundance of those things.
Yeah.
Pastor Ryan was talking about the crown of life once we reach Judgment Day and reach heaven, and that crown, would it be a very shiny crown with all the the different gemstones in it, or would it be a regular crown? And the regular crown is for those that make it but didn't bring anyone along with you. And that crown that's just filled with different gemstones is the one, because you love people over loving things. And so as you bringing people along, because that's who we should be loving. It always go back to loving people, right?
Yeah.
And I like how he tied that into the crown of life. Like you were saying, hoarding things, we should be hoarding people.
Yeah.
And we all can do a better job of that,
Yes.
bringing people along with us, right?
Yeah. I read a story recently of this woman. She was somewhere in Africa, and she's part of a tribe where they don't believe in Christianity, and you are harmed if you are out there spreading the word. And long story short, her husband was killed by these people, and she just continued. They had planted a church, and she continued on like nothing had happened. And the soldier that killed her husband ended up dying, and she took food and went and cared for their family. And her whole tribe was so blown away by this that many of them became Christians because of that. And I just try to put myself in that place.
Amazing. Yeah, right. Because it can
hard.
be and it can be, that's a very difficult situation.
Right.
It can also be super simple. And I think, again, we get in the way. We think it's too big to accomplish, or we psych ourselves out of doing something that can be very simple.
You get in
I
your
don't think
comfort
that was
zone.
very simple.
No.
That would have been very
Yeah.
hard to do.
But it's just been on my heart.
But that was her
wow.
heart, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that was her walk, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I do think that we just can psych ourselves out of doing a thing that we know we are supposed to
Right.
do. But I don't think it has to be that difficult.
Yeah.
You know, that listening to you talking about that, Amanda, that gives that perspective of love those that persecute you,
Yeah.
right? That is probably would be a tough pill to swallow. Someone come in and murder your loved ones, and you showing that godly love to them, even though they did this to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is the holiness, right? That's living, setting yourself apart. That's living differently than everybody else does. And Ryan did talk about holiness and godliness, and holiness is an action. It's the fruit of a godly attitude. It's God's on your mind all the time,
Right.
and how can I please Him, and how can I be the person He set me apart to be? And then godliness is it's a good fear of the Lord, right? It's a reverence of the Lord, and knowing that more of an attitude, I guess, in that God is constantly consistent and everywhere, and knows all the things. So there's no point in trying to shy away from Him because He already knows your heart. So,
Right.
but I think those two things they mesh so well together, and they're both we're called to be both of those things. And so again, it's just putting God first, and then the rest of the stuff. And Steve's talked about too in the past, it's okay to have things, but when the things become what you're worshiping more than God, then you got a problem.
Yeah, I think too, oftentimes kind of going back to what you were talking about, it's like learning to be more concerned with what God thinks about us.
Yes.
Than what anybody else thinks.
Yes.
And I thought Ryan did a great job yesterday pointing out like Noah or Joseph. I think of Moses, all those examples where those people were following God, were being obedient to what they were called to do, but they looked a little different or a little crazy.
Yeah, they did.
To this world.
I'm going to start building this big old boat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. You sometimes might look a little foolish to somebody else, but it doesn't really matter. Because, and then I was thinking too about these people that lose their homes in tornadoes and wildfires, and they're going to rebuild. And what does that look like? I mean, if you really lost everything and completely out of your control, what's your perspective when you start over? Yeah. Do you accumulate less? Do you understand that you can do with less?
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to just kind of hear a point of view on some of that. And God tells you He's going to take care of you. So you get out with your life. And I think that is a message that's loud and clear. I saved you.
Yeah.
And now go do something good with that. But again, it doesn't have to be something catastrophic. It can just be, I think we all have stories of how we've been saved and rescued in multiple ways.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got a story. Some are like Ryan's story where he was, a wild child, and others just had a hiccup or two along the way. But it's still your story, and it's meaningful, and can touch somebody in a particular way.
Absolutely.
If you're willing to share it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think these verses, I think it's a good place to like reflect on what your current priorities are, right? And your lifestyle choices. Are they in harmony with the eternal perspective? Are we living as ambassadors of Christ?
Right.
You know, I mean, I think our perspective is often limited to this world.
Yes.
And
we don't think
we forget
big enough.
Yeah.
Thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. That there's.
You know what, Amanda? I think we should live like your mug.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I saw that.
Hold it up again.
Yes.
As if Jesus is watching.
Yes. He is.
Yeah, he is.
And yet, how often do we forget that?
Yep. Pretty much every time I'm behind the wheel of my car.
Yeah. Is it? I mean, I thought Ryan did a great job, too, of kind of providing those analogies that help us, you know, to remember that perspective. It's like we're eagerly awaiting. We're excited, like little kids waiting for their dad to come home from work, or, you know, we need to be being busy like the boss is watching.
Yes.
You know, when I was a store
like
manager,
the boss is watching. Exactly.
they used to joke because if I saw them leaning, I'd be like, "You've got time to lean, you got time to clean." So I would find them like the worst things to do. So they knew that they needed to keep busy.
Tell me you wasn't that type of boss, man.
Well,
busy to be busy.
You're not there to be on break.
It was a balanced approach, okay?
It's called a job.
Yeah, right?
You're in the labor force. It's not a rest
We're
stop.
leaning.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, do you guys have anything else you want to add? Because I can leave us with a
I'm excited.
Three-part pondering question.
Wow, that's good. Give it to us.
Is what you want important? Is it more important than what anybody else wants? And what about what God wants?
Well,
there you go. Ponder away.
I feel like you just dropped a bomb on my week.
Yeah. Happy rest of your week.
all righty, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. This concludes our podcast for the day. You know, do me a favor. Hit the like button. Thumbs up. Comment the number right below. Text us. Let us know what you think of the podcast. And we would love to hear from you, because right about now, let me clear my throat, because we are